Hey guys, in this video series, the things that we're going to be covering are always not character specific, right? This is general concepts that apply to most, if not every character, right? And the idea is to explain concepts I feel like are very necessary to play at a high level, but are often very misunderstood or not known in general and not well taught or taught at all. But I feel like they're very important things that a lot of people misunderstand or they misconstrue why certain things happen when they happen, why certain decisions were made, or they think certain decisions were made that they just, completely misunderstood the situation. And yeah, the whole idea of this series is to help people get to that next level where they can understand these concepts, like employ them, and really, there's this big wall to get to higher level that some people just bash their head against it there. I just gotta play more, but they're really just lacking knowledge in certain things that they need. And this series is there to help with that. Today, I'm going to talk about a concept known as, well, a delayed button, alright? As opposed to a meaty when you get a knockdown. When you get a knockdown, as you'd already know, a meaty is when you press a button that they wake up into, the active frames of it. A delayed button is when, same situation, but you press a button so they don't wake up into the active frames. And I'm going to go over why this is such a massively valuable option that I don't see people don't really have much of a concept of this until higher levels, and I feel like it's not very well explained, hence this video. Now I'm going to show two main versions of this for different kinds of knockdowns that are important. There's an important distinction. The first thing we're going to go over is a knockdown where you have enough plus frames to walk out of throw range. Basically knockdown situations where you can shimmy, okay? That's what I'm going to go over first. For example, I have Ken set to wake up tech or delay tech, and this is what happens. As you can see, I can walk out of range in time to get out of the throw. Now, one of the most important parts of doing this version of a delayed button is your spacing and timing, right? So when I knock Ken down like that, you want to walk back just far enough that any wake up throw they do will whiff, but not further than that, as much as you can help it. And you also want to crouch block, which you'll see why later. But it'll look something like this. Right? Now the question is, why would you do this over just doing a meaty? And there are a lot of good reasons for this. And I'm going to go over most of them, if not all of them, okay? Starting off with, well, the way you have to look at it is, what do you expect your opponent to do on wake up, right? And then you want to select an option that covers the most expected things that they're going to do, right? You don't just want to think of, oh, I think they're going to, wake up, I think they're going to tech, right? So I'm going to do what beats tech. You need to think, I think they're going to tech, but maybe they could also wake up reversal or this or that. Like, what are their most common habits, right? And then you want to pick an option that covers as much of that as possible, right? But before we get there, first, let's talk about if they wake up tech. What is the benefits of this compared to doing a meaty, right? I have Ken. He is set to wake up delay tech, which everyone, if they know it or not, pretty much everyone delay techs all the time. Because if you tech straight away, you're going to get hit by a meaty. But as you can see with Ken, if I do a regular meaty, like I'm going to do, you see he blocks. Even though he was delay teching, he blocked because that's just how it works, right? He didn't tech into the active frames, but if I had thrown, as you'll see, he's gonna tech the throw, right? So this is where a delayed button is more useful than a meaty, right? Because, as you can see, because I delayed a button and I'm outside of throw range, his throw whiffs. and then I punish it without even reacting to it, because I'm pressing a button there anyway, right? And then I hit confirm it. What button you press for your delayed meaty is going to be obviously very character specific. For it, I find this one is largely the most useful. There are other options. Now let's talk about reversals. I can set to wake up reversal. As you know, if I do a regular meaty, I'm going to get hit like this. But if I do a delayed button at the right timing, which is, you know, a timing you want to do pretty similar timing every time, but one that'll always be slow enough to block a reversal. As you can see, I pressed my delayed meaty. You can see it in the inputs, but I blocked because I pressed it after I was blocking it already. So while also punishing throws, as shown just before this, I can also block a reversal. So if you think they're gonna wake up tech or wake up reversal, this will cover both options. Now we get to one of the biggest reasons I don't like doing regular meaties often in this game, right? And it's this, wake up perfect parry. A mechanic I'm not very fond of in this instance of it. Yeah, it makes it scary to do true meaties, because perfect parrying a meaty button is not hard if that's what you're expecting. But if we do our delayed button, we get this, right? Obviously not a punish, but we're not at risk of getting perfect parried. You can see what's happening. Screen ends like this after, you know, a good distance away. And the whole game isn't getting flipped on its head from a perfect parry into a side swap into this, that, and the third. So this is another huge benefit of doing a delayed button over a E button. Now, where does a delayed button have weaknesses in comparison to just doing a meat? The first is if they do wake up buttons themselves, right? So, you know, that's a common thing people will do, as silly as it is. It's useful, can be good. Wake up button into drive rush. This is a big weakness of doing a delayed button, because, you know, they're going to press in. But thankfully, we mitigate this fairly well by the steps I was talking about earlier, in that you walk out of distance and you crouch just outside of throw range before doing your button. The importance of crouching is so that you don't get opened up by like a wake up low, right? And in this way, oops, I pressed that a bit too early. You see, I did my delayed meaty, such and such. He got the initiative on me because he did wake up button into drive rush, where even though I blocked it, he's still plus, and you know, that's this game. But at least spent a lot of drive to do that. And, you know, that's how it goes in this game. Right? You know, protected myself, made him spend a lot of resources, and yeah. But obviously a meaty will just beat that, you know, outright. But, you know, but there are instances where your opponent will wake up button, or sometimes they'll even wake up slightly delay button, because wake up delay button is an option that people do use at higher levels, and it kind of, you know, it can in equal parts of you hitting their delayed button with your delayed button, you can also get hit by their delayed button from pressing your delayed button, right? It's a bit of a, you know, weird scramble where it's just very dependent on who picked what at what time. So that's one of the weaknesses of a delayed button here. Another weakness of delayed button is if they do a wake up jump, right? They might not necessarily punish you, although often they can. But you can't punish them or stop them from doing it. And wake up jump is pretty common in this game, as it is a decent answer to dealing with throws a lot of the time. Just because, you know, teching is death, whereas, you know, even if you get anti-ed from wake up jump, or even some meaties, it's not as bad as eating a shimmy, right? So people will wake up jump fairly often. So that's another weakness. But as I said, sometimes it won't lead to anything, you know, depending on what your button choice is, this and that. Maybe you'll get punished by this, maybe you won't. Maybe you even have time to anti-air them depending on your character and what button you chose. But just one thing to consider. Now just to show how this works in a more realistic situation, I've turned on a lot of the options, right? Wake up delayed tech, wake up reversal, wake up button, and wake up parry. Just to show like realistically what it's like to use this option. A lot of comments here. There's my throw punish. Another throw punish. And giving me 3 throw punishes. Safe there because I didn't meaty. Block the reversal. You get the idea, right? This covers a lot of common options safely, even if it doesn't necessarily beat them. And one of the greatest things about this, I find, is against players of lesser understanding who don't exactly know what you're doing. They will often think like, oh, this guy just keeps guessing right. He always knows what I'm gonna do. Like I wake up DP and he blocks it, or like I wake up tech and he shimmies it, and like, or like sometimes I get hit by his button. Like he just always picks the right option. But really, what they don't understand is you're picking the same option every time. They just don't understand that it's covering so many options at once. They think you're making specific reads when you're really not. So when you're playing someone like that who looks at it like that, it can be such a powerful tool to kind of get in their head like that. Alright, let's talk about the next situation for delayed buttons. What if you have a good knockdown with good knockdown, you know, pressure, but you don't have enough advantage to shimmy someone, like this for example. As you can see, I try to walk back for a shimmy, but I still get thrown, right? Can you delayed button in this situation? The answer is yes, you can, but it's a bit different, right? This situation, as you can see, I haven't set to delay tech. As you can see, if I do a meaty, a proper meaty, it'll get blocked. But what you can do is a delayed button that is definitely not as delayed as the previous examples we've been going through, right? You want to hit the startup of their throw, which is very variable, right? It'll look something like this when done correctly, right? This is what you can do in a situation where you don't have time to safely walk back out of it. Now you might ask, why would I do this when I could just, you know, do something like this? And the answer is, there's a lot of good reasons, right? It covers different options, right? If they do wake up button against that, then, you know, against the backdash, then there's a good chance you're getting clipped by like a wake up, you know, crouching medium kick into drive rush. If they do wake up jump, they're getting away or they're jumping at you, which maybe you won't, you know, be ready for. Whereas if you do a delayed button, often a wake up jump will still get hit and they'll just air reset, which, you know, it's not a big reward for you, but it's better than nothing and it'll give you more pressure. And if they press a button, there's a very good chance that you're going to stuff the startup because you're already trying to stuff the startup of something that's around 5 frames, you know, give or take, depending on how much they delay. But one important thing to take note of with this is that unlike the first examples of doing a delayed button, this version of delayed button will not beat reversals. You'll still get hit by reversals here, And if you think to, I'll just press really delayed so that I still block the reversal, then if they wake up delay tech, you're probably going to get thrown. Now, one thing about doing a delayed button like this, even people who are aware of this as a concept, a lot of them won't try it often or at all because it's quite hard to do well. It takes a lot of guesswork, right? And it takes a lot of mindfulness, right? Because you're trying to hit someone pressing a delayed, a delayed tech throw. Here's the thing: when someone does a delay tech, it's not always going to be the same timing. Different players are going to have different timings, very slightly, but it's important. And not only that, but the same player is going to have different timings just incidentally, right? Without trying. Because the delay tech isn't like a very set thing. That's why it's, why it's delayed. So how can you hit the right timing? How can you work on that? As I said, firstly, the answer is guesswork. You want to go for areas of, timings that are common, that make sense. But even then, it's a small bit of guesswork, but the risk reward is not that bad, usually. Right? However, thanks to one great new feature that's been added to the game recently, there is now a very good way to practice. Because one of the biggest problems with learning this and teaching people about this technique is it's very, very hard to practice in training mode or setup or anything like that because it's a very fluid player interaction moment that is hard to replicate. But we have a way around this now to practice that anyone can do. Okay, and that feature is the replay switch control, right? Here I have a replay between two amazing players, Lashar and Emperor. You can do this in your own replays, and you should, for situations you identify. But here's an example of what you can look for to actually practice it. Right? You want to look for, one of the main things you can look for is a situation where your opponent teched, basically, right? That's an easy one. As you can see here, anti-air, Emperor techs. So let's go back to that. Let's go about here. Player 2. As we can see, he techs here. As you can see, if I do a proper meaty, he blocks. Because he was delay teching, as everyone usually does, right? So the way to learn from this is you practice the timing against what a real player's timing was, and you try to hit it, right? And you just keep trying over and over until you feel like you got it right. See, that was too fast, he blocked it. There we go. Again, this is how you practice delay tech in a realistic way, right? And don't just pick one. As you can see, I was too late there. Don't just pick one example and practice that forever. You need to find lots of different examples because there'll be, different timings. That's how you practice it. And yeah, that's the gist of how you can practice delayed buttons like that, like the up close ones, in a realistic setting. Anyway, that's it for this concept largely. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Also, if you have any ideas of kind of concepts like this that you would like maybe help being explained or that, also comment that. Maybe I'll make a video about it. I have a fair few ideas lined up for this series. But yeah, follow me on Twitter, that's in the old description. Come join the Ed Discord. More Ed specific stuff, although this was obviously a general video. Yeah, see you in the next video.